Hey, listen, I think it is. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. It's nice to see you guys. Really nice to see you guys. The energy around here is good. I see people doing the right things. I'm glad. I was excited to come to work today, as I am often. So listen, here's the thing. I had something happen today to me. It was a spiritual experience. They talk about spiritual awakenings. They talk about spiritual experiences in the book a lot. I'm going to have her read in the back of the book what it talks about spiritual awakening and spiritual experience. And then I'm going to explain the difference between the two. And then we're going to talk about it a little bit if you guys want to share. And then I'm going to give you my experience of what happened to me today. And we can just go from there. So,
if you want to follow along, it's on page 567 in the very, very, very back. Alright, spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in the book, which, upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yes, it's true that our first printing grave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is
erroneous. It's false. It's not true.
Okay. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone, but often takes place in a few months and could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honesty, facing his problems in the light of our experience, can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one needs to have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation.
Okay, thank you. So here's the thing. It said it in there a little bit about spiritual experience. How? All right. So here I want to ask you guys. What's the difference between a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening? Yeah.
One's like a... Oh, my bad.
And then you go.
Okay, well, a spiritual experience is something you experience like spiritually. Like an awakening is a full change versus something you just experience once.
Yeah, well, so spiritual experience, it would be an experience for the spiritual part of you. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And
yes.
A spiritual awakening is it's really complete different perspective shift. Or like, anybody in here know what the difference between, like, it's a revelation. What's a revelation?
Right.
What's a revelation?
Sudden realization.
Well, it's funny because a revelation is when the light bulb goes off in your brain and you're looking at it the way you were supposed to be looking at it instead of the fucked up way you were looking at it the whole time, right? Do you understand? What is that?
Revelation is something revealed.
It's something revealed, but a lot of times it's something we've been told or it's something whatever, but it just hits us in a different way. Do you understand what I'm saying? Here's the thing. Go ahead, RJ.
I think a good example of that is when you pray for patience, God's not going to give you patience, He's going to give you an opportunity to be patient.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they say. Don't pray for patience. He's going to give you a whole bunch. Did you want to say something else,
All
Clark?
I'm saying, well, like, a spiritual awakening,
Yeah.
that's after something's been shown to you, revealed to you, and then you step through it,
Yeah.
you know, and it wakes you up.
Almost like if you stay sober long enough and you work the steps, because it says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. Here's the thing. I had my spiritual awakening after step 5. The spiritual awakening they are talking about in this book is when the obsession is lifted, the obsession for the alcohol and the drug is lifted, and you go from not being able to picture your life without drugs and alcohol to not being able to picture it with drugs and alcohol. A complete perspective shift. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right, it's like a turnabout.
A complete 180. You know what I mean? When that happened for me, when that happened, I said, "Oh shit!" Like that, like here's the real deal. Like all the drama and all the shit and all the pain I was causing, the pain myself, the pain around. I should have known. I should have, like, I should have never I should have wanted nothing to do with that long time ago, right? But it says it right in here that most people go through the educational variety. I wasn't going to be one of those people, and I don't know any of those people. I don't know if you guys do. I don't know anybody that, was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction, and one day said, "God, please take this from me," and it did. Do you understand what I'm saying? It happened, for me especially, it happened as a process. But a spiritual experience, I call a spiritual experience a nod from God, letting you know you're right where you were supposed to be, doing what you were supposed to be doing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes I get them here. Sometimes they're little ones. Sometimes they're big ones. Sometimes I get them here. Like the other day, like that group that I did, when a bunch of you came up to me afterwards, like where all of you, for the most part, all of you are looking at me and you're nodding your head and you're sharing honestly and deeply, and it was like real powerful shit to me. Like that was a spiritual experience for me. Like it feeds my spirit. It lets me know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I shouldn't be out there doing the other thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? So today, I'm at my other job, wearing my working, just a t-shirt that says Fort Bend ISD. And I stop at a gas station and I'm heating my food up and I'm buying a Pepsi. And a guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, are they hiring at Fort Bend for HVAC technicians and this, that, the other thing, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "If they're not hiring today, they're hiring tomorrow. Like we're always looking for people, so put your thing." And here's the thing, I don't know how. I really don't know. I don't even remember how it went from talking about that to talking about his 4 tours of duty, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan and 1 in another place, and all the types of trauma he's dealt with and all the things that are going on in his life. And I mean, when I tell you, we got really deep. You understand what I'm saying? And he's getting emotional and I'm getting emotional and we're talking and he's like, "I'm trying to get help, but I have nowhere to get help from. I have nobody to talk to." It's like, he's like, "I find it easier to talk to you than I do my family, and I can't even be around my sons." Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm like, holy shit, like, I don't know how it went from talking about that to talking about this. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it was like, I know that I was right there. Because if I'm not living this, right? If I'm not living, right, Forrest? If I'm not living this and doing this every day and this being a part of my life, do you think me and him ever had that conversation? No, of course. Well, yeah, exactly.
You would have a job before then.
But no, exactly. But just, I mean, even just more than that, like it blew me away. A nod from God, like, "Mike, you're doing what you're supposed to do, what you're doing." Because let's be real. Carlos, when you're out there doing that and doing all that other shit, do you have many of these nods from God? You're doing what you're supposed to do, or do you have, you're not doing what you're not supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? Like this overwhelming feeling that this is not how I'm supposed to be living my life.
Right.
That constant conflict in our head, like, I don't want to live this way, but I don't know how to live any other way, and we're constantly pulling the tug of war and this and that. Like, what happened to me today, and I'll tell you guys another one, Z's heard this before, like a couple of years ago, I was in Rosenberg, I was going to the post office to mail my daughter her birthday present. It was December. And it's an old kind of post office where it's got the steps that go up the thing. So I'm holding the door open for this little Mexican lady, and I said, hurry up, young lady, I ain't got all day. And I winked at her, you know what I mean? Like 100% joking and whatever, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, coming up, and she goes, I am just so tired. I've been painting my house all day, and I got this. I said, you've been painting your house by yourself? I said, can I give you a hug? And I gave her a hug, and she started crying. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I have nobody to talk to. Can I talk to you? And she's telling me about her husband's bedridden, and her sister just got cancer, and her son was sober for like 5 or 6 years, and he just got locked up, and he's calling her for money, and she has no money to help him, and she's got nobody. And I talked, and she talked, and we hugged, and she cried, and it, this and that, and it was like, I always remember saying, like, because people are always like, man, like, you were able, and I'm like, who did more for who? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, because I'm like, this is the type of stuff that didn't happen. And she read that in there before, and I wanted to stop her when she was reading it, but I had to say all this other stuff. It's like we have this overwhelming presence of feeling that God is in our life. Like, that's the type of stuff that happens to me that never happened to me. Like, and here's the thing, like, I had these little spiritual experiences, like when I'm teaching my kids like how to play Little League, and you know what I mean? Like when I'm doing that type of stuff and I'm with them and it's the right type of things, it feels good and it feels my spirit, and there's no like guilt or shame or remorse about it. It's just like a really pure moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? But like when I was living the way I used to live, I was in constant conflict and battle with myself. I'm not doing the right thing. I want to do the right thing. I don't know how to do the right thing. I keep doing the wrong thing. No matter how bad I want to stop doing the wrong thing, I can't help but do the wrong thing eventually. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you know, and I don't know like how else I can explain it, that when you get clean and you work the steps and you hang in there longer, that complete perspective shift, because promise you, I don't have 4.5 years if I don't have the psychic change that she was talking about, or that complete perspective shift, or that complete 180. Because here's the thing, nobody ever explained it to me like this in treatment. Nobody ever said anything. You know what they would say? Oh, get sober, you'll be happy. I'm like, that don't make no fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? I've been sober before. You know what I'm saying? I've been sober before. How am I going to be happy? Work the steps makes no sense. You know what I mean? So that's why I try to really explain it to you and implore and just say, like, if you're anything the way I was when I was in treatment this last time, I hated myself. I couldn't have hate myself even more. Like, I was broken. I was ashamed of myself. Like, I was sad. Like, I just depressed, anxious, angry, uncomfortable, nervous. Like, didn't feel the way I did today. I'll tell you that. You know, and this is the only thing I'm trying to explain to you guys, that like the last part that she read, like even if you don't believe that it could happen for you, right? Even if you're not like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah, like it definitely happened for me, and I believe that you believe I'm telling the truth right now. And like she just said, where she read that, like the only thing that can keep you is an attitude of belligerence or denial or whatever. Like the only thing that can keep a man in everlasting ignorance is contempt prior to investigation. What's that mean, Patrick? You don't know?
I do.
Go ahead. Okay.
I do. That's,
You don't want to
I
say
was thinking
something?
about something else.
Okay.
Predisposed. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Say, not believing you going and making sure that what you're saying is true, or doing my own research about it.
Well, that's exactly it. Thinking like, well, that ain't gonna work. It can't happen for me. Like, you know, I told you I had contempt prior to investigation when it comes to praying and meditating, because I could see how going to meetings would help, and I could see how maybe the work in this. Do you understand what I mean? But then when they would be like, Mike, you need to pray and meditate, I'm like, what for? It's not gonna do nothing. And now I think it's the most important thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, do what I did. Get to the point where you're willing to try and do anything. And if it don't work, you can at least tell everybody, man, I tried my hardest. You know what I mean? Like, I tried my hardest, right? Like, because that's the thing with me. I never not wanted it to work. I just didn't think I could. I told you. They told me you could be happy being sober. I'm 39 years old in treatment. I've never been happy sober in my whole entire life. So I have nothing to compare it to. I have nothing, you make 0 sense to me. I don't even, you know, I appreciate it and I think that it happened for you, but like, that's not me. Because like I say all the time, I didn't even like getting high that much. I just hated being sober. You know what I mean? So when you tell me you could be happy being sober, you make no sense. Anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to share? Anybody want to ask about spiritual experience or spiritual awakening or anything like that? Come on, guys, I need your help here. Yeah.
Can you have a true spiritual awakening and still relapse?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you don't do, listen, that's the thing about this. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, if you don't stay taking care of your spiritual, physical, and mental health, you will relapse.
Yeah.
Because it takes, think about this, it takes some time to get to there, right?
Yeah.
It takes some time to get to there. So if you don't continue going that way, you're gonna slide back fast. So you go right past that point, right? You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I know you'll relapse if you don't do the work. I'm saying.
yeah.
You
Yes.
can actually have a spiritual awakening if you still fall back.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Ask anybody, I mean, ask Forrest.
I mean, I wanted to, I don't want
Yeah.
I had 7 years.
He had hold on, he had 7 years, go ahead.
I mean, I was knee deep in AA before the coronavirus here, and it got screwed up. But anyway, I had the spirit experience. You know, people just told me that. I mean, I didn't really notice it, but people would
It said right where
tell
she
me-
read there, it said, the friends and the family are aware of it way before they
Right,
are.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like what you talked about. It was just a different way of living. I mean, 100%.
And there is a feeling to it. It's like the feeling where you can breathe better.
Oh,
It's like so you know the feeling you get when you fuck up and you think about some shit you did and you just get that wave of like.
well, I was always when
the opposite of that.
I'm high.
Yeah, and I like what you said, the word freedom, that's what it is. Go ahead.
I'm just all, you know, when I'm using, I'm uncomfortable around everybody because I'm lying.
Well, that guilt and that shame, it's like carrying that shit around.
And, you know, everybody's wondering if I'm high or not. And it just, you know, it just ruins everything.
Well, I had a counselor tell me one time, you know why you feel guilty, Michael? Because you are. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's what she said, and I'm like, you're right. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
And it's even worse, I mean, coming off of 7 years,
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
God damn.
yeah. I couldn't even imagine the weight of that.
You know, my wife just destroyed it. I mean, this was like the worst relapse ever because she said that was the best 7 years we ever
Well,
had.
because she like let her guard down, right? Like that's really what it is. Like she was like, all right, we're good, we're in the clear. And then you brought something back into her life that she thought she said goodbye to. You know what I mean? Like I say all the time, like every time that we get clean and get sober and start doing good, we give everybody around us hope and this and that. And the message, the longer you go, the further they forget. So the kick to the stomach is even harder. Yes, Joe.
Yeah, I have he had the same question, because, you know, I didn't know if you could have a spiritual awakening and then, you know,
Yeah.
screw up again.
Yeah.
But I did 8 years, and then, like you said, like my family had forgot completely about,
Yeah.
you know, about all the screw ups and stuff I made. And it happened to me right after I got burned, you know. I drank so much, they brought me beer in the hospital.
Yeah.
Even the nurses would bring me, you know, a 6-pack of beer, you know, that says.
Yeah, keep you from being sick.
Keep it from me from going in the shot or something.
Yeah.
But I did it. I didn't touch them, man, and the sight of them just made me sick. You know what I mean? So what I would do is I'd save them all, and then when my uncles or something came to see me, I'd give them all the beer. You know what I mean? It was just like night and day. You know, from craving alcohol to like, I was like, just the smell of liquor would make me nauseous. You know, it just made me really, I had a disgust for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And what is that? What?
Hospital was that?
Well, the thing is that.
Burning in Galveston.
What hospital was that?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Even my family couldn't believe it.
I had an uncle tell me that in Florida one time that he was in the hospital and they'd come give him a couple of beers every now and then. I'm like, why would they just give
They
this
never
out?
gave me any beer.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I got it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Carlos.
No, actually, rehab in Mexico, they do give chronic alcoholics a shot of alcohol in the morning. Tequila, whatever, like for certain days.
Yeah. Well, it's.
I mean, chronic.
Here's why, though. Here's why. You can literally die from alcohol withdrawal. So if they give you that, like that's why, like even if you get locked up in New York or Texas or anything, if you tell them you're an alcoholic, they will have to medically detox you because you could seize out and die. It's serious stuff.
No water, water, one cup of water, I mean, this Chronica, because they put you in detox to take care of them, and for 3, 4, 5 days, so in the morning they drink that, and then they were not allowed to touch water with their feet or to drink water, because they could just, their liver could just, I'm talking about chronic alcoholic that they drink that $5 barrel thing that is straight alcohol.
Okay, so I really want to keep it focused on the solution and like, because I know if I ask everybody again, do you think it happened to you? And everybody's gonna say yes, and I'm gonna be like, oh, really? Like,
Do you still get like random waves of craving? You personally?
I know, and I'm about to tell you, like, here's how it could happen for me, right? I always tell the story, like, I was at a barbershop in Rosenberg, and I usually go in the morning, but for some reason this time it was late in the day and they were closing up, right? So it was like me and another guy, we were the last people there, so they locked the doors, they put the blinds down, they brought out the beers and stuff like that, right? And I was like, oh man, it looks good. I don't even like drinking beer, but it was like...
Looked like a fun time.
Yes, it looked like a fun time, and I'm like, oh man, that looks good. And then I was like, are you fucking crazy? You don't even like drinking beer. It would start off, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's like, because here's the thing, I don't get cravings for drugs and alcohol. I might get a thought sometimes, but I've been restored to sanity. Like when they say, this is why I don't like, you know what I don't like when they tell you, like when you leave here, like, okay, hey, when you leave Forrest, play the tape through. Here's the thing, until you're restored to sanity, until you've had the thing, you don't know how to play the tape through, because if you could, you would have did that other times. Do you understand what I'm saying? It says right in the book, we cannot bring with sufficient force the problems, whatever I'm paraphrasing, from a week or a month ago. We can't do that.
But
We can only do that after we get clean, work the steps, have that psychic change, then we're restored to sanity. Then when someone says, here, have this, you say, are you fucking crazy? There ain't enough here for me. Yes, Michelle.
I was gonna say, yeah, because like even playing the takeover after so many months, like you think that it wasn't that bad, or
Yeah.
you don't remember,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
don't remember flipping your car and almost dying. Like, oh, that was a one-time thing, that could never happen again. Blah blah blah. Like,
Well, the guy Bobby that comes here to bring meetings, he would say it all the time. You get a little bit of time. And instead of thinking about flipping your car to DWI or this and that, he thinks back to that one summer where he had the greatest time of his life. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, that's what
Exactly.
happens. Yeah, well, 'cause we really are. Listen, if it says that we can be restored to sanity, what does that tell you guys?
That we're insane?
Yes, you're crazy. Like, your thought process doesn't work like a sane person's thought process. Like, you are crazy. Like, you will choose to drink or get high, even though it's going to possibly kill you, destroy you, fuck everything up. It'll sound like a good idea. It'll sound like a good idea. But yes.
Real quick, I was told by teachers at my last rehab that you'll experience cravings for as long as you live. It's just up to you whether or not you actually act on those cravings.
See, I don't like that, because if you look up what the word craving is, someone get a dictionary for me, please. I want to look up the word craving, because listen, no, because Amadeus, here's the thing.
It's an overwhelming need
Right.
for.
Yeah, because I always, and you've heard me say this before, right? Like, I always thought craving meant like a piece of chocolate cake, right? Like, I'm craving a piece of chocolate cake.
Right.
But when they say the word craving in the big book, they need, what is it, Forrest?
There's an overwhelming need for.
An overwhelming need, like that parallels like sound reasoning and mind. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That is not true. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, you might get, like I said, I might have a thought every now and then of drinking or getting high. But that thought, because I keep up on my shit, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That thought is quickly replaced by, I feel crazy.
Yes.
Right.
That will destroy, you know what I mean? Like, that will destroy everything. That
But the
will-
only way to get there
Yes.
is to do the program, work the steps, and do it daily, and not like miss anything. You got to keep everything there. Every tool you have in your toolbox, you have to use. You can't
Yes.
just put some to the side and not use those some days. It has to be every fucking day, a full commitment. Otherwise, you'll waver.
Because a lot of people have the spiritual awakening, the regular, whatever, they have that, oh man, I can't, and they think they're done.
Yeah.
And they think they're done. And all of a sudden, they might go to the one meeting a week they like because there's some pretty girls there or guys there, or, you know, it's fun.
Exactly what happened to me, man. I thought everything was okay.
Yeah, and listen,
I could skimp on some
and
things.
here's the thing, it's completely natural. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's the way our fucked up brain works. Here's the thing, guys, if you're sitting in this room and you're a drug addict or alcoholic, whether you diagnose yourself or not, right? It's a disease, and it's classified as a mental health disease. How many times have you heard the story about, I'm using air quotes, the crazy person that went off their meds because they were fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, they stopped taking the meds that made them fine because they were fine. I don't need my med anymore. And then they did some crazy shit and they'd say, well, he was off his meds, or she was off his meds.
I did that all the time. I would take my
Yeah.
antidepressants for like 2 or 3 weeks. I'd feel happy again. I'd be like, oh, I don't need that shit. And then I got depressed again. Then
Yeah,
I'd
I
have
know.
to start taking them. And then I would do it again.
Well, it's insane, but it's how our sick brain works. It's how our sick brain works. Why do you think you gotta stay going to meetings? Because you get reminded of it and shit. You know what I mean? You get reminded of it. You hear it, you're like, oh, okay, all right, this is what it is. Like, constant battle. I mean, I had a talk with my best friend in New York today, his name's Mario. Sometimes he listens to these things. And he was having problems with his friend, his 2 brothers and this and his family problems and stuff. And, you know, I'm like, hey, listen, man, it's terrible. It sucks. It really does, man. Your brother, it's disappointing to me. I know them all. We're really close. It's disappointing to me that your brothers are acting like that. But you have to know that, like, if you would expect them to act any different, it's almost on you. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, Mario, what are you doing to take care of your spiritual and your mental health? Because I make this analogy all the time. Man, you get to the point, man, you get a good enough foundation, and you get your mind and your spirit right, you'll be like the guy from the Heisman Trophy. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's just like, do you understand what I'm saying? It's just like skipping by everything. Like, it might frustrate you, it might aggravate you, but you're able to put it in its proper perspective and say, you know, this is how it is, and that's the stuff they do, and I'm not going to let it eat my lunch, and I'm not going to let it mess my whole day up, and I'm not, you know, I tell people all the time, my friends in New York and other people, I'm like, you know, every time someone gives you a ticket to the circus, don't mean you got to show up. You know what I mean? Because this is on you. If you're trying to take care of all this stuff, you need to know what you're supposed to do, what you're not. Do you know what I mean? And you'll learn this, and that's why you have to stay up with that. And that was a good question, RJ, because you would think that, like, once you did it, you'd be fine. But if that was the case, then this wouldn't be a lifelong commitment. Or do you understand? Go ahead, read the word craving.
A great desire for belonging, an abnormal desire, as for a habit forming drugs.
I mean, an abnormal desire. Like I said, if you ever told me, like, the word craving, I would think it's a piece of cake after dinner. You know what I mean? Like, I crave a piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to have an abnormal desire. You will not have an abnormal desire for drugs and alcohol if you do what you're supposed to do.
That's
Because
right.
like I was telling you guys the other day, when you leave here, I don't care how healthy you get, I don't care how much you do, you're powerless over people, places, and things. And for the rest of your life, you're going to be powerless over the first thought that pops into your head. Do you understand what I'm saying? But you will not have that obsessive mind and the compulsion of the body that comes along with being a drug addict and alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like I said, you might say, hey, you know, you're young. What's your age? 23? 19, shit, sorry. 19 years old. So let's just, it's a safe bet to say, he gets out, he gets clean, he gets sober. He's still going to be in the world with people that use or drink or whatever, right? You're going to be around people that are doing that. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure you say, man, that's not good. Remember we had to talk the other day, right? And I was like, yo, listen, please don't make the same mistake that I see a lot of people make, that say, I'm an opiate, I'm a heroin guy, I don't have a problem with what? Alcohol.
Yep. And then
Yes,
they replace it with that.
they're drinking like,
Bro.
yeah, I mean, who said that? Clark.
I quit hard drugs, meth and everything, coke, all that, about a year and a ago, never touched them
Yeah.
when I replaced the belt.
Yeah, you just switched addictions. And then you're drinking like,
Every time I drink, I go straight to crack.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I'm just gonna have a couple beers, and then it's a couple beers of shots, and a fucking
There's crack.
there's crack.
well, Clark, you used to drink before the drugs, am I correct?
Right, a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm
doing
saying.
drugs, I didn't really drink that like I drink.
Yeah, because here's what people don't understand. Those really powerful street narcotics and drugs, that shit ramps up the disease in you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anybody in the history that became heroin, crack, crystal meth, and then went back to casually drinking. Even if they're able to stay away from the hard drugs and they go to drinking, they're drinking like crackheads.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just like, I mean, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, they're like, I never was a morning drinker. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Listen, here's the thing, that pickle cucumber thing, once you walk through that door, like, I mean, your use and your tolerance and all that stuff, it constantly goes up. You never get to go back and go back to some casual. It's just, if it was possible, none of us would be here. You know what I mean? None of us would be here. It's just not possible. It's not something that's going to happen. I told you what I told you today because I really wanted to give you a little bit of inspiration. I want you to give you a little bit of hope. But I wanted to share it because it was powerful to me. It was like I said, to me, it's like a nod from God, man. You're doing what you're supposed to do.
That's what it feels like too.
Yeah, where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to do. They say in the book, like, when you walk in the sunlight of the Spirit or being rocketed in the fourth dimension, when they say overwhelming God conscious, what they mean is that God, because, one second, Robbie, I take step 3 more serious than the rest of them, even though I take them all serious. I turn my will and my life over to care of God. That means if God wants me, has something for me to do, I'm ready and willing and able to do it at any cost. You know what I mean? And that's what was able to happen for me today. And God damn if it didn't get me high.
I was gonna say, not to kiss your ass or anything, but I feel like.
Well, thank you.
I feel like, and I don't wanna speak for everybody, but I feel like you do that here pretty often as well.
Well, thank you. Well, that's what, like, listen, there's times when, like, even I can get unlimited overtime at my other job, and I struggle with money and this and that, and it's like sometimes I'm like, maybe I should cut back hours here and work there and do this and catch up, and then I'm like, when I do stuff like this, or we have these type, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Because I feel that, like, I feel it. I feel it with you guys sometimes. Like I said, last group that I did last week, that last one, man, that shit was, like, powerful to me. You know what I mean? It really was. And all this shit, like, I like to laugh, I like to joke, I like to have fun, but I couldn't take this any more serious. I don't want you guys, I know what it's like to sit in your seat all day, and you don't have to struggle with this thing. You have to do the work, though. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just decide that everything is going to be okay. What are you willing to do? How far are you willing to go? You know what I mean? Like, it is all on you. You know that lead a horse to water, can't make them drink type of thing? Like, we're leading you. We're showing you. God's showing you. However you want to look at it. Like, what are you willing to do? Anybody else? Come on. Yes, I'll let you.
I think the main issue I have is, okay, I'm not like a religious person, but, so, when people talk about like spiritual and mental health, like specifically spiritual health, like everything I hear just sounds like improved symptoms of depression or anxiety, like increased motivation, like less anxiety, less stress, like feeling more calm. Like,
Before you hear about it.
Yeah.
So, Alea, if we're talking about spirituality, where does spirituality come from? Like, because you're almost, I think you're mixing it with religion, which it doesn't necessarily, for me it doesn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, here's the thing. This is the way I look at it. A human being has 3 parts. You have the physical, right? The physical, the mental, and the spiritual. No?
I don't get the spiritual because it's not a tangible thing, and I can't like break it down and analyze it, so it doesn't add up.
All right, so let's talk about spirituality for a little bit. I think someone's spirituality, I think the spirit is the energy that they bring with them. I think you have good spirituality. I think you're struggling with some things right now. I think you're trying to figure some things out. But your aura, the thing that's following you around is positive. You don't think so?
Sure.
Yes, and then I got you.
Spirituality is the base of my recovery. See, when I was in my addiction, when I was not hitting bottom but in the basement, I had a hole in my soul. And the only way I was able to fill that hole in my soul, I thought was alcohol and drugs. And the hole got deeper and deeper. It came to a point where I had to humble myself and ask God to help me. And that's when I was able to start saying something like, see, what it is, my spirituality is to me, what's inside me, the drive is inside of me. My spirituality is what I live for every day. So what I see on the outside, type of thing, that's not who I am, but I am what's in my spirit. See what I'm saying? When I'm sad, I'm supposed to be sad. When I'm happy, I'm supposed to be happy. That's my spirituality. But I found out that every day that I'm sober, I pray through it, and I see the difference in myself. I see the improvement in myself. And I think I do a whole lot of it's an improvement. I constantly feel it in myself. That's my spirituality. I'm able to identify who I am. I'm on the inside looking in now. That's your spirituality. Understand what I'm saying? That's just you. That's your soul. See, it's something you can okay, like you say, it's something you believe in. You believe in yourself. That's your spirituality.
All right, so hold on. So what do you want to say?
I was gonna say like maybe on a more extreme note. So someone's eyes bloodshot red, the barking foaming at the mouth. You don't perceive them as like a happy person or oh man, like you know they're probably the best person ever. No, you're gonna think of them as like a nut, you know, or like it negative. Yeah, like you're not gonna want to be around that, right? Yeah, their aura.
Well, so,
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Go ahead, Clark.
I had something to say about that.
Yeah.
Aura or whatever, your life energy, it's what you bring to life. It's what you do in your everyday task. And if it's bright and it's positive, then you're bright, you're positive. That energy that you bring to yourself and to others. But if you get off track and you get into dope and alcohol and shit like that, then it darkens. And you don't bring light, you bring darkness.
And as a drug addict and alcoholic, I say this all the time, we're sucking the life out of the people around us.
Yeah.
Now, the spiritual life that they're talking about in these 12 steps of other programs, it basically breaks down to the more you give, the more you receive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the more, here's the crazy, you guys, like what you just said, RJ, thank you. I appreciate that. You guys, over the years and stuff, people say, Z says stuff to me all the time, really compliments me and says nice things about me. But you guys could never, you guys do so much more for me than I could ever do for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? The more I give, the more I receive. That's the spiritual life, like making yourself selfless instead of selfish. Because let's be real, as drug addicts and alcoholics, we're selfish. No matter how much we care about other people, no matter how much we do for them, we're still thinking about ourselves a lot, are we not? Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're addicted to drugs and alcohol, you have to be thinking about how you're going to get your shit almost 24/7. Go ahead there.
I mean, I think if, in her case, I mean, if you do the steps, at some point it's going to come to you. I mean, if you do it long enough, you're gonna it's going to hit somebody. Somebody's going to see it in you before.
Well,
you got to do it.
No,
you got to do the
and
work.
here's the thing with that. There's no light at the end of this tunnel.
No.
You're walking through a long, dark tunnel, and then all of a sudden it's bright out. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You won't see the light, you won't see it and be like, okay, yeah, now I can keep moving. Man, it'll just feel like you're kind of just struggling through life and where you're at right now. And then one day, life is going to be so much brighter and you're going to look at it differently than you ever have. And I know that might be hard to understand because I'm trying to explain something to you that you have no baseline. It's never happened to you before. So I get that it's hard to grasp. But that's why you don't even need to believe it. As long as you do it, it'll happen for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to believe that it's going to work for it to work. Do you understand what I'm saying? No.
What's 100%?
I mean, dude, I am that person. I promise you. I told my sister, I told people, I said, I'm going to do whatever they say. And when it don't work, I can at least tell you I tried my hardest. Yes, yes, and then yes. Got you after that.
So, like, in my case, I have experience doing the right things, like, and then all of a sudden everything gets, I get to, like, you can say somehow the life, but now I'm back to where I know I got to trust what you're telling me to do.
Yeah.
But still, I'm still like in this moment is the only thing that I'm holding on to, because I gotta trust and do just what they're telling me.
I know it has happened in my life.
Yeah.
And it
But-
hasn't got it darkened for me again.
Yeah, what
You
you're
know?
saying is, you know it works because it's worked for you, but even sitting right here, you
No,
have
it
doubts.
works.
That's what I'm saying, like, I get it, because right now, let's be real, if we're really being real, like, this isn't the best thing, like, we're in treatment right now. We've made a mess on the outside. Possibly people are upset with us and angry at us and mad at us, like, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't come in here on a winning streak hitting all the right notes. Yes?
I just think that for me, it started with just having faith.
Yeah.
Having faith in myself, the program, and my family. You know, my wife, again, I'm having faith in me.
Well,
And I
yeah.
think spirituality starts with there.
Well, you know what's funny too, because like even if, and that's great that you have that faith in it, and even if you don't, I just want you to have faith that you know the old ways aren't gonna work. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like when they say, because here's the thing, guys, when they say self-will run riot, I don't know if you understand this or not, but you are completely 100% fucked whether you use or not. You're only unfucked if you work some type of program. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you don't work the program and you don't clear it out and you don't live differently, you're gonna be miserable whether you use it or not. Am I
No
wrong?
doubt.
No doubt. He says no doubt. Like, and that's true. Like, so that's where you got. And like, kid, you're doing so good. You really are. Like, and even questioning it the way you are, good. Clark, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking basically something similar to what you're saying. A lot of people come into these programs, and I've done it before, and you're predisposed, and you're doubtful, you're prejudiced, you know, against it. You hold prejudice in your mind, you know, and everything. And as long as you have that attitude, it's not going to work.
It says it right in
You
the
got to
book.
replace it
The
with
only,
hope and
yeah,
everything. You know,
yeah.
you got to replace all that with hope and prayer and work on it.
Yeah.
You got to put the work in
Yeah.
to get anywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen. Sometimes I say to people like, I wish I could do it for you, and then I tell them real quick, but I really don't, because it would take away. You know what I'm saying? Like without the work, without the struggle, without the process, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like I said, like nobody. It doesn't happen overnight for anybody. It doesn't happen overnight for anybody. This is a grind. It's a struggle. It's a process. But the one thing I always try to say is, how was life before you got here?
Yeah, what worked.
It was not working. You didn't come here at the drop of a dime. We came here because we had exhausted everything. You know? Oh! It's Ashley. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is a dumb question, but I've always struggled with this. So obviously it says you can't live in self-will, and you have to live in God's will or the higher power of your understanding. But like, how do you know the difference?
Well, hey, listen, I literally said that out loud in meetings and shit like that. Okay, you want me to do God's will? I need to know what it is. Light bulb, revelation, spiritual awakening, whatever you want to say. I said, I might not know what God's will for me is, but I know what it's not. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, how about this? It's definitely not drinking. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, no matter how you look at it, God doesn't want you to be sick over alcohol, messing everything up, depressive, suicidal. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is going to be going. It is to get better. It is to get better. And all that other stuff, being able to help other people on jobs and this and that, that all comes later. Right now, God's will for everybody in here is to put down that shit, adopt a different way to live and get better.
Yeah, right.
That's it. God doesn't want you to suffer. See, here's the thing. When everybody in here, like Forrest, when you really get your mind right and you're able to help other people, God's going to put those people in your life. Right now, you might not have many opportunities to help anybody, even though you're helping people in here, because you can't transmit something you don't have. You gotta be, do you understand what I mean? Like, this is what we're at. Like, and that's a really good, I'm telling you, I used to say shit like, well, what's he gonna do, text me? You know what I mean? Because now I'm willing to do it, I just wanna know what to do. And that was real, I remember thinking, like, now I look back on it, it's real arrogant of me, because now I'm ready to do God's will. I need to know what it is right now. No, I needed to sit in my seat for a little bit and let the shit, you know what I mean? Like, I needed to sit and be uncomfortable. I needed to let the process happen. I'm telling you, it was like a light bulb went off. Well, God, you might not know what God wants you to do, but he definitely doesn't want you doing and selling drugs and fucking everything up and overdosing.
Well, I guess.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know, but that's, I mean, I'm hard-headed.
Are you?
Oh, man.
I mean, but he will tell you in certain They'll tell you in certain ways, at least like for me, it'll be like sharing something, and after the meeting, someone coming up to you and being like, hey man, I really need to hear that, or hey, I was struggling with that. It's just someone coming up telling you that, hey, what you did had an impact on me, and that's where you're like, fuck, that's God, that's
Well, also too, when you have a sponsor,
working.
when you have a sponsor and they're like, no, you need to do this, and you need to do that, instead of thinking, that motherfucker don't know what they're talking about,
Just go
that
in.
could be God. You know what I'm saying?
Don't shut the door on it.
God works through people. He's not going to text you, although he might under somebody else's name. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to say from Jesus or God. You know what I'm saying? Like, it might be your sponsor who digs in your ass and you can't stand it. Whoa, pause.
I guess I asked that question because I was confused because, you know, I was like almost 4 months. Oh no, almost, yeah, right at 4 months. And my sponsor at the time told me, yeah, you've been living in self-will for the last few weeks. And I was like, I didn't understand what that meant because I was doing everything she had asked me, you know?
Well, it's
I was
not like you
learning
weren't
the
even
ins and
doing
outs.
what she asked you, but she was seeing how you were doing other things, possibly, maybe. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because listen, that is the truth. Listen, we can tell, I can tell when you guys are off here. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can tell when I talk like my friend Mario in New York, I can tell when something's bothering him just the way he answers the phone. Do you understand what I mean? Like, we can sense that type of stuff in people. So, hey, listen, she was obviously right. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I know, but I like,
Yeah.
how do I fix that? Because I didn't know how I was living in self-will. Because I don't know what I was doing wrong. Because inside, I felt good.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. I actually felt good. When she asked me if I was fine or good, I was answering honestly.
Yeah.
So like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
But hey, trust the process and trust the people you have around you. You know what I'm saying? Because none of this made sense to me either. You know what I mean? So I get it. And it was a good question. Anybody else? Clark, and then I got you, big dog.
You know, sometimes I believe that God or higher power puts someone across your path or in your life, like the Bible says, beware of turning away strangers lest they be angels. You know?
Yeah.
And I believe that because it's happening to me.
Yeah.
Angel, somebody was like an angel. I mean, it turned my life around. So, you know, and I believe that. And I believe that the more you work toward goodness and doing what's right, the more that's going to happen to you.
Like what happened to me today.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, in my old life, he would have asked me about the job, I would have been like, yeah, they're hiring all the time, man, have a good day. Gave him a fist bump and kept it moving. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And
it was an angel in that man's life.
yeah, and listen, it's crazy because I was taught this as a kid. Like, I would see my parents, like, they would go out of their way for homeless people, they would do this, and I had this guy in my life, like, he was my parents' school teacher, but he was the most spiritual, kindest guy ever, and he would tell me, he said, Michael, you know why you gotta help anybody that comes through your path? Because it could be a test from God. It could be an angel and a test from God, or it could just be somebody that needs help. You know what I mean? Like that. And this was the stuff that I was taught as a young person, and that's why when I came in, they were like, Mike, you need to do the next right thing. And this is what I said. I do the next right thing. I do about 8 wrong things in between. You know what I'm saying? But I do the next right thing. I know what it's like to you know, but I didn't know it kind of had to be all one way. Yes. Oh, you didn't have your hand up. Anybody? Patrick, come on, Patrick. Give us some words of wisdom, man.
Okay, like you have to expose yourself. That's it.
Come on, is that why you have to register that every neighborhood you move into?
No.
500 yards of school.
Every time he moves, everybody gets a letter. All right, so listen.
That's not what I meant.
But thank you, I appreciate it. So guys, listen, guys. So Ashley came in to tell a story today, but you're going to be doing the Zoom meeting in the women's house. So please, go smoke cigarettes, talk shit, do whatever you're going to do. But please, I know this sounds crazy, but show up 2 minutes early. Please, in the women's house.
What are we doing?
It's an AA meeting.
I'm not allowed in there.
You don't be there.